closing div, like how do I make sure that I close all the div properly, right?
Right. So I think like if you use Visual Studio Code, like the first thing you'll notice is that it auto closes every time you open anyway. And the other one,
Oh,
can you open
okay.
up Visual Studio Code? Can you
Yeah, sure. Let me just share that.
yeah, so like the you close the tag as soon as you open the tag. Like that's kind of my rule of thumb. Like you never wait until you're done with the div before you close it. So you open the tag, you quickly close it immediately, and then you write your stuff in the tag. But can you show me that, and I'll show you how to activate that
This
right. So can you go down to some after the H1 or something, find a place, right? Yeah.
after H1, sorry, this is head and then H. Yeah, this one after
Right, right,
H1,
after
right?
H1, right? So can you press enter after that, and then just maybe,
Okay.
okay, then all you need to do is to type, yeah, you open up that one, you press tab, hit on tab.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
no, like, so, yeah, you see
Yeah.
that? It auto closes that for you. Like, you never had to worry about, like, where to open or where to close.
Oh, okay.
So
So
don't,
because sometimes what happened was that, like for example, some of this code, right?
yeah,
I added it from the Bootstrap, but
right.
I wasn't sure if when I added div, it
Mm.
automatically closed it for me.
Okay, another one I can show you is that, can you go down to the T head, the T head, right at maybe on the line 48. Line 48, there is a T head, right? And then
Yeah.
line 56, if you put your mouse, if you click on mouse, if you put your mouse on T56, on line 56 T head,
Yeah.
if you put your mouse on there, you will see that it tells you which one is it trying to close. 56, not 50, 56.
Oh, 56. Okay.
Yeah. You see that? It tried to highlight that too. It says
Oh,
it says that, okay, this is corresponding to the T head up there. So it tries to tell you where is it that is opening and closing.
okay. I see. I was afraid that I would miss out the different diffs that I opened, right? So I've been trying to count it. Did I do it right? But apparently, okay, that's good. That this is pretty cool. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right,
So
got it,
it
bro.
does take care of a lot of those things, because it just makes sure that you just focus on your programming and not worry about syntax too much, because it tries to complete that for you, and then it also tries to highlight that and tell you where is it closing, where is it opening.
Nice. Okay, that's cool. So yeah, Visual Studio is pretty cool, man. Okay.
Muli, are you using the same thing as Nayoko, or like are you guys doing different things?
No, I think she's something else.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. Wait, yeah, let me show you my screen. Yeah, just
Okay. So this
yeah,
is
just
also
the
from
same thing.
TradingView? Is this also from TradingView, or like is this from something else?
Yeah, same thing. I just embed things from TradingView.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and so you learn about the you learn about the layout then, the columns, the layout columns, like how many div, column 3, column 6, column 9. You learn about that already?
Not the column 6, column 9, but I get the logic that it's actually the same with WordPress editor that we were using. It's actually a columns, but the difference is that we need to implement it by code rather than by user interface drag and drop.
So this is a grid based. This is called a grid based layout. Like this is very new, because prior to that, when I first learned web development, we don't there is no Bootstrap framework yet. So all of this, you don't have this kind of like nice system. So there is no real consistency about how to implement layouts and stuff. So when I was first learning web development, I think 12, 13, 14 years ago, this was a time where we used tables for all of that. So everything you see on the website is a table. Back then, if you go to yahoo.com, the entire layout was done using table. So that means you're actually implementing things like how you implement things in Excel, you know, row and column. Yeah.
Right.
So pretty crazy, pretty scrappy, but that's how we get by. And so a lot of the websites look stupid, looks really bad. But that's because that's the best we have, is to use table to do layout thing. And then later on, when Bootstrap came about and sort of reinvent this new way of layouting, then we move on to this layout system where we use things in 12 grids. So everything is 12 grids. Why 12 grids? Because 12 is a really good number. It can be divided by half, which makes it 6 and 6. So you can create 6 and 6 columns, make left and right, meaning 2 columns in one row. You can make it 3 3 3, you can make it 4 4 4, you can make it 3 3 3 3, and it still adds up to 12, you know. So it's a really nice system. And so nowadays you see a lot of like main websites and stuff. They are implementing with a sidebar. You see 9 and 3. The 9 is the main, and then 3 is the side layout. So there is a a sidebar, and that takes up about 3 column. 9 takes up about 9 column. That's the main meat. So that's all the that's all these nice goodies that Bootstrap provided to you. So today we're gonna take a look at Bootstrap, but today we're gonna implement our backend in a way. We're gonna learn by, so today we're gonna have to go into Flask, And we're going to combine what we learned with Bootstrap. So at the end of the day, you don't just have a static website, but you have a server that you can launch and can accept requests, can do fancy stuff. So that's kind of what we're going to do.
Sorry, Sam, before we continue, I have a question about how to make my grid, I guess column, right?
Yeah.
Here, let me just show you.
Right,
I
sure.
want to know how to actually make it into percentage, set it into percentage width. So for example, like I want to set it 25% or like 30% of the column of the entire grid, right? Is it, what do I call it, grid?
Do you call it what?
Grid, or do I call it?
Yeah.
Do I call it column?
Yeah, you can call it grid. So actually,
Okay.
yeah, we can do that first before we go into Flask. Let's do that. Do a few practices and then make sure that we are familiar with the layout before we go into Flask. Then, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So let me share my screen now, and I'm gonna start with the. So I assume that all of you have got your. Are you looking at my screen now? You're all seeing my screen? No.
No, not yet.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me try again. Present my entire screen. Sure. Okay, are you looking at my screen now?
Yep.
Right.
I can see it.
Right. So, so this is where we stop actually, right? This is where we stop. Like I mean, obviously we all have bring the app to different directions, and we all have like different layouts now. But but just to summarize where we at. So we learned about the head, we learned about the body. I'm gonna just close out all this head because we don't use that now. We're gonna just stick to the body. So the first thing we realized is at the like towards the end of the last week's session, what we did was we created a container up here. And you can see all of this by actually right-click inspect. So you can go to any web page for that. I mean, if you really want to practice this, the best way to do it is to go into any website and just practice that. So you go to, for example, bestcheckout.co.id, and you can do the same thing. You can take right-click, and you can see how they implement the front end. Actually, to be honest with you, you can actually copy the entire front end and put them into your project because everything on the front end is not protected. Any web browser who goes to your website can actually look at your front end code and they can copy a copy of all of that. So front end code are not protected. So that's why it's very crazy when people say like, oh, you know, I have a front end, but I don't want to show you the code and stuff. You don't need to show me the code. If I go to a website, I can actually look at your front end code. So see, it's taking a bit of time here. Let me go to another website, maybe faster. Let's go to, what do we go to? Brusa Effect. Let's go to idx.co.id, right? Okay, so let's take a look at this website, for example. If you right click and you say inspect, then you will see that it implements it this way. And if you look at the code itself, you see things like container here within the container. And if you were to look at the container itself, you see that within the flexbox, it implements a couple of things like layout. Okay, here it doesn't really. Okay, but anyway, you see that there's a container, and then you see that this is the rough layout. You can see how many, what kind of margin and padding and stuff. If you move to computed, you can see like, okay, this is kind of how it looks like. So if I want to right click on this, I inspect that. You see that this is a, and you can change this as well. So for example, if I change this figure to maybe 20, and let's say change this figure to maybe 200. Okay, here it's not taking effect because it's changing this thing. I want to change the entire table. So maybe this table, I'll change this to, let's say 3, add a 0 in here. You see that now it becomes really, really wide. So this is probably nonsense, but let's move it back to 1050. Still pretty wide, so let's move it back to 500. So you see that this is gonna change the layout of that. And if I change this to maybe 400, you see that now the table is really long. You see that? So here it gives you some sort of idea about how things work on the front end. And usually what I recommend is that you use this tool a lot, even if you're just doing practice, like you're not really trying to program. Just use this tool a lot to sort of get a sense of like how are things implemented in that sense. Like same thing here, I can right click inspect. So first step, you just have to make sure that your browser have the developer tools turned on. So this could be any browser. I'm using Brave right now, but right click inspect, and then you see this, you will see that this is the table. So what you want to do is to click on that table, and then here you change things. For example, again, I'm going to change this from 159 to 300. See, now it becomes like very, very tall. So that's kind of the main idea. So let's go back to our main. I'm going to close this one. We can also implement this nice pop-up later, but right now we don't have to worry about that. So let's go back to our main stock screen here. So first thing we did was we implemented a row. So this was what this is that when you implement a row, it creates this nice layout. So if I show you my code here, this whole thing is a row. Now if I want to delete this row, what do? I just click on this one and just click delete, and bam, the whole row is gone. You see that? So that is actually the row. I hit Ctrl Z to bring it back into view, but within the row itself, I have three columns. You see that? 3, 3, 3. Now what if I want to add one more column? Well, all I need to do is to just copy another column, just create another column. So here in this div here, there is the, I'm gonna move this in to align things properly. This is also gonna be there to align things properly. Finally, this is also gonna be in here to align things properly. So all I need to do, let's say I create another div column. If I put another div column in here, and this one I call it I call it portfolio variants. Okay, and if I save it, if I refresh the page, you see that it created a new column here on the 4th column, and I could go on and create as many columns as I want. Let me create 4 first so I can show you what it look like. Now if I put a call 3, if I refresh the page, you see now they would add up with 3, 3, 3, 3. So a whole row would be comprised of 12. So when I put 3, 3, 3, 3 on each one of them, it makes it possible to align them in one single row. So one row comprised of 4 times 3, because the row has to sum up to 12. That's all it is. Okay, and if I make this 2, if I make this 2, then I can have 6 of these cards. Okay, I can have 6 of these cards because each one will take only 2. So I can actually have 2 more of these cards. But if I make them 4, now let me show you what I mean by that. If I make it 4, and I save it, now all of a sudden, each one of them will take 4, meaning on a grid of 12, there can only be space for 3 of them. So meaning the 4th card would have to move downwards. You see that? So what I want you to do is to just try that out a little bit. So just forget about what I just did here, and I want you to try and maybe create a new row. So open up anywhere in your notebook or in your editor. So open up anywhere. It could be at the top of your website, it could be at the bottom of your website, but just create a container first, right? So it can be at the top or it can be at the bottom. So for example, I'm gonna add another one just to do it with you as well. So why don't you just open up your editor right now, if you have Visual Studio Code open, and this is the HR. Okay, I'm gonna move this H1 out, and I'm gonna move this out as well, like that, and refresh the page. Okay, actually I'm gonna move this container out as well, somewhere like that. Okay, somewhere like that. Okay, alright, cool. So I just added a so you find a space. It doesn't matter where on your page you want to add this, but what I want you to do is to try and practice the row and column thing. So I'm going to give you the documentation, and then we can do it together. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to create a row, and then the next thing you want to do is to create a column. So you always want to create a row first and then put the columns in. So if you look at the Bootstrap 5 layout, we're going to spend some time just trying to do this grid system. So it says this, it says that to create a simple one, this is what I've been talking about. I said you create a row, and then from there on you add column, column, column. Now if I just play around with this thing here, I'll give you the link here so you can just go and copy that right away, so you don't have to this is the link, so just go in there and look at the code in there. But
so the maximum is 12, right?
Yes.
By default is 12 always.
It's always going to be 12, yeah. So okay. It's a 12 base grid system. So you see, this is what it's called. On the first line of the explanation, it says this is a 12 column system. You see that?
Yeah. So if you want 1/3, basically it's call 3, right?
If you want 1/3, it'll be call 4. If you want 1/3, it'll be call 4, because 4 times 3 is 12, right?
Yeah.
So if you take a look at the examples in here, the first one it gave you here, it says row, and then I put a column. Now this doesn't have to be column. It can be called anything, but this could be something like my stock balance. Now it'll be stock balance, and then here I'm just gonna call it my portfolio variance, and then finally I'm gonna have a cash balance. So I have a stock balance. So sometimes I go into my broker, I have a couple 100,000 left in like spare cash. If there is a good fire sale, I'll buy something. If not, I'll just keep them in cash. So there's the stock balance, portfolio variance, and cash balance. Now, I want you to try and think about this. If I were to add a call for in here, call for in each of them, you see nothing changes. But if I were to make this call for to call 6, now see what happened, yeah? If I add a call for, call 6, and call 6, see what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen is that now they will be equally half-half. Why? Because I told you this is a 12 column system. Remember? So because it's a 12 column system, when I add a call 6 to this class and I add a call 6 to this class, then now two of them would have to combine to be 12, meaning they would take one row, meaning the cash balance would have to be on a separate row. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense, bro.
Right. So if you want something,
they're just too big, basically.
Yeah. So if you want, they don't have to be the same, by the way. You can have like 8 and 4. For example, I can have 8 and I can make a 4 here like this, and it will be 8 4. So maybe you want your stock balance to be a lot larger because you want to put some massive values in here. And portfolio variance is a small value anyway, 6%, 12%, 13%. So you want a smaller column. So this kind of system allows you to specify this without using the crazy, hard coding percentage or kind of crazy table, to do layout. This is more elegant, and this thing is also better because why? Because it's also very responsive. For example, if I were to go all the way down to a mobile view and I look at my code here, you see that the 8 to 4 is still capped in 8 to 4, right? And I can also, by the way, I can also change this a little bit. I can say if this is on a small column, then I want this to be 12. So what I mean by that is now on a small column, it's gonna take up 12. Let me see, how do I call? Okay, there is that. And then on the mid column, I want it to be 8. So look at what I'm doing here, yeah. If I show you my code now, this is on an 8.4 right now because it's a medium size with I'm using my Mac, so I'm actually having a pretty big wide screen estate here. But look what happened if I shrink it down to a mobile, because I put call SM12, meaning if it's a small, MD stands for medium, SM stands for small. So what happened if I were to shrink it down onto my iPhone size, and let's go and take a look. Not small enough yet. Okay, let's small enough, but it's still not there because we need to change that to maybe instead of SM, let's make it 12 like that. Okay, so now, yeah, if I go back down to the small device, bam, now it takes the full width. So this start to allow you to start to create this kind of very nice responsive layouts. So what I'm saying here is that on a very small screen, don't try and squeeze everything in. On a very small screen, just give the whole width to stock balance. But if this guy is using an iPad or a computer on a PC, then I want you to put 8.4. You see that? Yeah, so it allows you to create the kind of very nice, and you can go as far as you want. For example, I can say on a very large screen, call LG. LG stands for large. On a very large screen, I only want this to be a 4 because then I can have 4, 4, 4. So I'm gonna put the same thing here. I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna put the same thing in here. I'm gonna put the same thing in here, right? Now on a very large screen, I would have 4, 4, 4, right? But if I were to shrink it down, what's gonna happen? Now it goes to 12, 12, 12. You see that? So this allows you to create a kind of it helps you target mobile devices and allows you to create nice UI that would scale according to what the user is using. So this website will look very good on a big Mac desktop desktop app, website, but it would also look fantastic on a mobile app because you also account for that by putting in by dynamically changing the values depending on that. So this is what my code is doing here.
Okay, I think this one's quite clear. I want to also next, just the last one out of all this is actually, I think it's quite important, is the gutters, right? So the gutters are like helping us to create padding because when I create, and if you see mine, my first section and second section has no space.
Yeah.
But my question is, I've been putting it in according to what the guideline of that gutter says, but it's not showing any padding for some reason.
Can you maybe share a screen? I can take a look at the.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me stop mine.
Yeah. Let me do that right now. So here I have like, I put px4 on container, and then the div class gy for the vertical and gx for the horizontal 15. And I also, well, I mean, that's it. That's pretty much it. Because actually I want to have essentially this space between, my objective is to have a space between here and here.
Right. So how do you create that space?
Yeah. Submit and here, right?
Where do you want a space between? You want a space between?
Submit, the bottom part of submit and this, so that there's more space between this section, the one with just displaying trading view, and this first section, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, can you show me your code again? I'll tell you where to add that.
Yeah. I don't know if I made a mistake here.
Okay.
This one.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Okay. So can you add after GYGX? Can you add space and then put MB4? I'll explain to you what MB4 means. MB4 means margin bottom. So give it about 4 paddings on the 4 pixels of padding on the margin at the bottom. So can you go back to your website and see what happens?
Now it works, man.
Now it works, right? Yeah, that's it. So MB4 stands for margin bottom. So you need to know what you're doing here when you add like things like MB, M3 and stuff. MT stands for margin top, MB stands for margin bottom, ML stands for margin left, M right stands for margin right. So okay, let me put that MT, MB, ML, and MR.
Let's say MT minus. So it has to always be -4. What if I put plus?
No. It's not a minus. It's a dash. So it's basically saying that add 4 pixel at the top. Add 4 pixel of margin at the top. That's what MT4 is saying. So MT3, if I put MT3, it's saying that add 3 pixels of margin at the top.
Okay, got it. So why is it that Bootstrap use GX and PX and stuff? Why are they using something a bit different? Like that's padding, right?
No,
P is padding.
Yeah, all the MT, MB, all of these stuff are also from Bootstrap. So they are all provided to you by Bootstrap. Like without Bootstrap, there is no class here that you have to define your own class.
No, but why are they using PX? So I understand like PX and GX and stuff. What are the difference there?
Okay, M stands for margin. What do you think P stands for?
Padding.
Yep, padding. So what is the difference between margin and padding? Create a button. Can you go back to your button? Can you go to your button? Like just do a Control F and search for your button. Yeah. Okay. Do a Control F. Yeah. Go to that button. Within the class of the button, can you type a P? Can you type a PT-2? Within the closing bracket. Before the closing. The closing. No. I mean the closing quotation. Before the closing quotation.
This one right here. Or. Sorry.
So right after BTN primary.
Right? Oh, BT primary. Okay.
Yeah, right after that. Okay, can you put a PT-2 or PT-4 just to see it more pronounced? Yeah, can you show your screen and see what it looks like on the website? Can you show what it looks like on the main homepage?
Yeah. There's some padding on top here. Let me just show the other one.
Yeah. So if you show everyone, then they all can see. Okay, what's happened here, right? So that's part. Yeah. Right. Now, can you right click on the button? Can you right click and then say inspect element? Okay, now we don't see the inspect element. But anyway, yeah. But what I'm trying to explain here is the difference between margin and padding. Padding basically adds areas, it adds spaces within the element itself. Margin adds spaces outside of the element itself. So when you put PT4, what is that? What is the difference between MT4 and PT4? The PT4 basically adds margin within the element. It pads it. It adds some padding. You know what? Like when you go and play football, you add some padding. You wear some padding to protect your knee, right? So that's paddings. And then margin, on the other hand, adds spaces outside of that. So when you think about your UI design, you want to think about, should I be going padding or should I be going into margin? Then you want to ask yourself the question, like, well, do I want to add spaces within or outside of it? So in most cases, if you're doing some sort of layout, you will use margin a lot to create space between different elements.
Got it. And G stands for, like, that's something else, right? Gutter, right? So what does that actually mean, gutter?
Yeah, let me see if here, this is the gutter classes. Gutter is basically, it says it changed horizontal gutters with GX classes GUI.
Like this part, right? Like GX. How do I know which one is talking to? Can I double click here? No.
So gutter basically are spaces between the different columns. But you can actually achieve the same effect if you just want to stick to margin and padding, because they are native to CSS, right? They're just margin and padding. So, but gutter create spaces between different columns.
Because here, when I changed, for example, here, I changed to 150. There's no effect. I'm so confused, like why that has no effect at all, you know?
Well, that's the same thing if you try and do empty -10. If you try and do empty -10, there will also be no effect. Why? Because everything has to be, like, everything that you put into a class, they have to be defined in the CSS, but you're not doing that. So you're only using what is provided to you. And what is provided to you was all the way from empty-1, empty-2, all the way to empty-4. Anything beyond that, if you put an empty-100, there will be nothing.
Oh, this is probably why I went beyond. That's why there's no effect, right? Oh, there you go.
See?
Okay.
Okay? Make sense?
So there's a limit of, like, how many.
It's not a limit. It's just that you can do any number if you implement them on your own, but you don't. So you're using my framework, for example, and in my framework I define empty-1, empty-2, empty-3, empty-4, and I stop there. I said I define these 4 classes, so anyone using my framework could go up to empty-4, right? So you can go anything you can go up to empty-100 if you want, but you have to implement on your own by creating your own CSS file.
Oh, I see. Okay, I got it. Hey, Mul, did you get that? What the GX means? Okay, cool. All right, got it, man. So there's GX, there's MT, and there is a P. Yeah, okay. There's GM and P. Okay, got it, man.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we can. Anybody else before we move to the next one?
Bro, are we going to use this padding a lot, or by default it's actually already responsive?
No, I think we have to set the padding, man, because when I didn't set the padding, it didn't pad by itself.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do. For example, if you look at if you look at, like, for the most part though, right, if you only strictly follow what is provided to you by Bootstrap, for the most part you don't have to worry about too much about margin and padding, because most things will be implemented quite nicely for you, except sometimes you have your own ideas, and that's when you want to use your margin and padding. Like, for example, in this case here, right, like if I'm doing a card here, this is all my card, these are all my cards here, but if I create a card and I go in here and I put a P4, or let's say, yeah, let's just put a P4. You see now it pads a lot more. You realize that it pads. P4 means pad on the 4 sides. It pad the top, the left, the right, and the bottom. If I put PT-4, what's gonna happen? It's gonna pad only the top. So I have a 4 pixel padding in the top, but not on the left or right or the bottom. But if I put a PT and a PB4, now that's gonna create padding on the top and the bottom. You see that, right? But if I'm gonna do PT and PB, what does it mean? It means that I can just say pad on the x-axis or pad on the y-axis. So PT PB4 can be simplified to be PY-4. PY-4 is saying that pad on the y-axis. It's the same. Okay, so PY-4 is exactly the same as saying that add PT-4 and then add PB-4. Now, what if I want to add on a padding on the left and on the right? I can say padding left, I want to add 2 pixel, and padding right, I want to add 2 pixel. Now I'm gonna add 2 pixel on the left and right.
ML or PL or P.
In this case, I can just do a px.4. Px would just create 2 on both sides, because that's the x-axis. So y-axis and x-axis, this is just a simplified form. It's just trying to tell you that, oh, instead of having you to type in PL-4 and then P right, PR-4, instead of having to do that, why don't I just give you a simplified form of just saying that P x-4. Px is like on the x-axis at 4. I can, if I go and do something like ps-6, You see nothing happened because this is not something that they provide to you, right? So I'm gonna change that to 4, and now I have that. Now what if I just do a P4? If I do a P4, what does it mean? It means that just create padding on every single area. Add on padding on the top, bottom, left, and right. So if I do that, see, padding top, bottom, left and right. You see that? P4. So yeah. So if you go ahead and change the code, let me add the padding in my card itself. So here, this is the card. So I'm gonna add that P4, and
cool.
So this is really nice because it saves you a lot of work. I mean, before this was invented, people used to have to hard code all of this stuff. All of this was hard code. You have to write the function for it, and then you have to be able to. Let me see, 3. Let me run that. Okay, see, now it's all like really well padded now.
Nice. Okay.
And then obviously you can also change the color of the card. For example, you can change the color of the card to give it like, this is the card. I can add a color. I can say BG-dark, and it would be dark. But now if it's dark, if I change the color to BG-primary, now it would be a primary color. So this is the color you can change. So I'm just gonna add that. Gonna go to BG primary, and the other card I'm gonna give it a BG success, and the other one I'm gonna give it a BG info, and finally I'm gonna give it a BG. I'm gonna give it a BG. Let's say dark, right? So let's save that, run that code. Now you see I have 4 different cards here. Based on the background primary. So this color itself, you can learn that from Bootstrap by looking at the color. So you go to the docs and you type colors, and within the colors itself you see color. You click on that, and within that it will give you this page, and it will tell you that okay, these are the classes that Bootstrap has implemented for you, but you can change them. So for example, it gives you all the different classes. It says primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light, text. So all of these are acceptable classes you can use.
Okay, cool.
Right. So if let's say I want to take the text light, I would just copy text light, right? Copy that, and I can go back to my stock screener, and I can just say, okay, for example, this one, I want to have this as text light because otherwise I can't see the text. So I'm gonna say bg-dark dash space dash text light. Now I can see all of that. See that? So it looks prettier now because I have a light text and I have the dark background. So let me go in there and change that as well. BG-dark. And I'm gonna go ahead and add a text light. Like that. So refresh the page, everything still works.
Nice. Okay. Oh, I see. Cool.
Yeah, so go ahead and maybe try and add a few of this into your elements. It doesn't matter what you do, but you can add a few. Like for example, I can add this form. I can also add a, I can also go click on that, and I can also try and change the form, give it a color, give it a padding. I can give it a class. I can give it a BG-dark text light as well, and that will create that. I want to give it a padding of 4, so something like that. So just adding 3 classes will make it a nice form with the color that you want.
Cool. So that's when you kind of like that concept of creating cards, right? Cards on top of like in UI, because you make it like a different color.
Yeah.
So thinking, okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So in a way you can go ahead and you can go ahead and change what the primary color would be. For now, I didn't change any of that, so I'm using the default Bootstrap color. But for example, at some point you decided that hey, my primary color shouldn't be this blue; it should be some other blue. You can change that. We can learn that later on in more advanced classes. But right now, this would give you what you want. So. So the colors and stuff like that is also something you can control using themes later on. So you can type things like Bootstrap 5 themes. And you can search for a good theme that you want to implement. For example, if you go into like Bootstrap Teams, there are a lot of like nice themes. For example, you can find the themes that you want, and it will implement most of these for you. Find a free one.
Okay.
See, a lot of these have like all the cool layouts already implemented for you and stuff. All you need to do is to change things. So
you have to use the $ in front.
I'm gonna type free, and I guess this one we could try and see if there's one cool one that we can implement right away. Okay, a lot of these are pro. We don't want a pro, we want a free. So click that away. Like for example, you can implement this simple one-page freelancer theme. You can implement a nice admin backend, and if you click on it, there is the code you can download, and it will implement a lot of this layout for you already, give you its nice colors and stuff, and all you need to do is to change things later on. So for example, let me just go ahead and do that right now. Okay, done.
So the difference between BG when you wrote BG and like theme color is that theme color will also take care of your font within there, right?
Sorry, the difference between BG and
the difference between BG, because earlier you taught us BG dash info or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
If we actually use the dollar theme color, then it will also take care of the font color, not just the background stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it will take care of other things, like for example how it looks like on the layout, how it looks like on the font, the typography and stuff like that. It will take care of other things as well. May even change how the links are presented right now. Yeah, some depending on what the themes does. Something would even implement some JSS, so some JS, some JavaScript, so that the link looks, you know, looks more, I don't know, translucent and stuff. There are other ways you can like change the layout of that. Like for now though, like the initially when I build a project out, I don't worry too much about the layout. I try to, as much as I can, just focus on the logic and not worry too much. But it's nice to have your prototype looks good at least, because if not, it quickly lose motivation. Like, what is this doing? It's so ugly. How can I ever launch this stuff? You know. So even though I don't really care about the layout until much later on, I try to make it look good first, at least for my own eyes, you know, so that there is some motivation. Like, oh, this looks good. This looks like a real product I can launch. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want it to look so bland that that you lose motivation quickly after.
Question, bro. This theme, if you go to like color and then theme color, right? It's dollar theme color, right? Do I put that within the class class a line, or do I put that like inside the div? Inside, I guess let me just show you. Let me just screen share. I was wondering like where should I put it? So for example, like, do I put it here, or do I put it within the class label? For example, maybe like if I just wanna put it inside this let's say this particular and do I put it just there?
Yeah, go ahead. And no, not the theme colors, but you want to put like the, so you don't need to put the theme colors anywhere in there. You just need to specify, like, put a BG dash and then whatever that is, like BG dash info, BG dash.
That one I already done it, but I was wondering, like, you know, there's this thing called like dollar theme, right?
So those are what they are. Actually, they are variables. They basically says they are variables that says, okay, I want to map them. So this thing here, if you look at the documentation, it says this is a SAS map. So it's a very different idea, because what it allows you to do is to create your own theme sheets in a way, your own theme, theme specification. This will require you to download something called a SAS and to implement it using SAS. But this is somewhat, this is a one step up in terms of difficulty. I can talk about that maybe later on when you're almost but it doesn't support this out of the box, like using only HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It doesn't. So but it's pretty cool to learn about that, because it allows you to create your themes, for example, and then later on, every time you say primary, it always maps to this color, which is your own primary color.
Okay, I see. Okay, I got it now. All right, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes. Okay, I have no more question, man. That's great. Thanks.
So yeah, so if you come back to the main app itself, so once you have all the colors ready and that, another thing, maybe I'll just talk about that, like the last one thing here is or I can save that to the next one as well. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I think this is good enough. So right now, once you have a good looking web app, hopefully added some colors, hopefully added some stuff, notice up to this point you haven't really written any of your own custom CSS. So really all you're doing is doing everything in your HTML file, which is quite cool, because it's quite cool because you're only using a HTML file and you're getting a lot of value out of the box completely for free, right? So you're not actually having to hire a web designer, try to design colors for you and stuff. It's just provided to you out of the box for free. Okay, now once you have all of this stuff, what we really want to do today is to try and build a sort of a server. Some people call this the back end. And what we're gonna do is to actually, before I do that, let me just make this look good first, because I think what I want to do is maybe I want to move this to the left and move this to the right. So let me do that real quick. Investment breakdown. I'm gonna do this real quick. So I'm gonna go in here. And this is also good practice for you anyway, so you can go ahead and do that. Oh, by the way, one thing in your Visual Studio Code is that if you want to save a lot of time, right, you can use something called the emmet coding. So this goes like that. I could write something like this. I could say div class, I could say row, and then I could close this, and then finally I can say div class, and I can say call tree, right? And I can then copy this to a new line. I can do it like that. But it allows, what emmet coding allows you to do is that you can actually say something like, you can create the whole thing in just one line of code, doing something like that. You say div with the class of row, and then within it I want div with a column tree, and then you say multiply by 2, and you can do the whole thing up together. Like I can also do it like this. So div class row space, and then div call tree, and then multiply by 2, and it specifies that for you. So you can save yourself some coding as well, just putting everything in one line of code. And then obviously I don't want to have three. I want to have maybe let's see, I want to have maybe 4 and maybe 8. Okay, so I'm gonna have 4 and I'm gonna have 8. So I'm gonna have one row. In that one row, I'm gonna have a column of 4, column of 8, and then within the 4, I want to put my within the 8, I want to put my table. So I'm gonna copy all my table, bring it in, and then within the 4, I'm gonna bring my stock to watch list, and I'm gonna bring that in as well. So I'm gonna find this, close this, copy it, and then gonna just move all the way, move all of it. Oops. Okay, so that's probably better off just copy the whole thing and move it in here. Okay, so now I have my 4, I have my 8, but now I need the whole thing to give it a bit of space. I'm gonna say margin top 4, refresh. Okay, now it looks probably better. I can remove my HR now. Don't need the line anymore. Refresh. Probably looks good enough. I guess I could also have a. I think it looks good enough. I don't think there's any more changes needed, but yeah, this is probably good enough. I could add more things later on if I want to, but right now this is probably what I want. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about Flask for a second. So this is all cool, but the problem here is that this doesn't take any kind of input and doesn't return any kind of output because you don't have a web server. Everything here happened as a static HTML. So this is what you would imagine you would do if you go and apply for a web designer job. So if you go to like Job Street and you search for jobs, I guess Indonesia, and you search for like web design, you would see like Bootstrap is going to be one of those things. Web designer or web developer. Let's see if they put in any of the I was hoping they would use the word Bootstrap somewhere, but let's try and just type it in. But almost every job here would require to use that actually. So like for example this one, you see that it asks you to use Bootstrap. Same thing here, it asks you to use Bootstrap. Same thing here, it asks you to use Bootstrap. Right? So So creating all this front end is good because it really, I mean, with your skill so far, you can already apply for a junior web designer role. You probably face very stiff competition, but you're probably good enough to design like front ends and making things look good later on and stuff. But really, what really brings it to the next level is to create a server on the back end and then later on link the two things together. So we're not gonna forget all the skills that we have because we're still gonna come back to it, but we're gonna now move into the creating a web server so that people could actually input real data in here, get real values. I mean, your stuff should change depending on the input that you get. Okay. Another thing we want to do is that we want to make sure that we also have things like links and stuff working as well. So for example, if I take all of this app HTML, I'm gonna copy all of that, and I'm gonna create a new file, and this time I'm gonna call it what do I want to call it? I want to call it features. Let's just call it features.html. And I'm gonna paste everything that I copied from my app.html to features.html. So this is how I did it. Was I go into right click and I said new file. You can also do it to a terminal. You can also do it from this icon. So what I'm trying to do here is I want to make sure that if somebody click on features, it should go to the features page. So in the features page, I don't really need the table and stuff anymore. So I'm just gonna find the whole row, this whole row. I'm gonna delete all of that. And whoops. I'm gonna delete all of this, take out all of that, and I'm also gonna change the name to, instead of this, I'm gonna say features. Okay, and this is fine, but if I change this to features.html, okay, now I have features. Okay, so I'm gonna create a lead here and say all the tools you need to manage your portfolio, or let's say your financial to obtain financial freedom. A bit cheesy, but a bit cheesy, but yeah. All right, so this is features, this is app. Now how do we link them together? Well, it turns out you link them together by going to app.html and you look for your URL. So where are your URL? It's within the nav, right? So there is the features here. So what you want to do here is to just say that if somebody goes to the features, you want to link that to what page? In this case here, it would be features.html. So you could say something like features.html. Save that. Let's refresh the page. Okay, done. All right.
Hey, question on this one. When I click features, right, or like over there, you click feature. The feature is not highlighted into like this home because the home is still white there, right?
Right.
How do you make it that it switch, man?
Okay, so really cool question. So what you need to do is to add the active tab. So I want you to go in here and I want you to just copy the div, this area. I want you to just copy that, place that, and I want you to remove the active from here and put it into features. So let me show you what I mean by that. So now it would make it, if I go to home, it goes to home, but if I click on features, the features is going to be active. You see that? So in the features.html, the active should be pointed towards features because this is the active page. But on the app.html, the active one should be on the home.
Oh, I see.
Let me put them side by side so you can compare. Okay, let me put them side by side so you can compare. This is how it looks like on the home app.html. This is what it looks like, but this is what it looks like on the features.html. One of them has the active on the home page, one of them has the active on the features page. Now you can try and play around with that. See that? Pretty cool, right? For the features, I don't think I need the BG.
And on the feature, we have to also make sure we change the href too, because in the previous one it's still like, let's say I click on features page, right, and I try to click back on home, but I realized that the href is still
no. So this is the home. You see that it should be app.html.
Yeah. It has to also be modified on the features as well. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So already we can see that we can do some code reuse here. So for example, what would be nice later on when we create our Flask, our backend, is that all of this nav should be completely the same across all the different pages. So you don't have to keep copying and pasting this chunk of code and then changing values in all the different pages. You know what I mean? You just want to change it in one place. So that is one of those things that we're gonna do later.
There's no short to this, right? Like basically every single time we create new page, we have to move the active to that page, right? There's
yes.
no like one shortcut where like it will automatically detect which page is the one that we clicked on.
Yeah, because HTML is not a programming language, but later on when you use Flask, you can actually do something like this. You can add something like a class. You can do something like this, for example. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna say I can write something like active if current page is active. That's it. And so you don't have to copy. You don't have to like manually change things, but you can write programming logic. But right now it's really not. Right now you're just declaring markups and stuff. But later on when you learn something called the Flask and the Jinja, and Mulia, if you're doing the current Python class right now and Algorithma, learning Flask is really good because that would help you do your capstone, because they're gonna teach you capstone, but you're gonna pre-learn it first before you actually learn it through Algorithma. So Algorithma is gonna teach you the same thing. They're gonna teach you how to do the Flask app and stuff as well, but I'm teaching you first. So if you get really good at this area, you can do much better later on in your capstone.
Okay, bro.
Nice. Cool.
Okay, all of you got this, like the home and the features thingy?
Yeah. Bro, I have a question. Why did you put the navigation bar on the body part, not on the head part?
Well, that's a really good question as well. Why? Because everything that you want to display to the visitor have to be in body. Everything in the head is not meant to be displayed to the visitor. It's meant to be, it's meant to be like meta information about the website, metadata about the website. The body is the meat of the website. It's whatever it is that you want to show. You want it to be in the body.
Okay.
Just like for example, Google SEO, do they read the head or they just skip to the body then?
Like Google?
Yeah, Google.
Google use the body to determine like what are the contents that they use to generate the snippets, but they also use the head to look at things like what are, like for example, if you share a page, if I go to Facebook right now and I try and share a page, let me share a page. I'm gonna copy that page and I'm gonna go in here, paste the page. You see that there is this nice tag that it generates. So Google try to not Google, but it gives you this nice URL and stuff, and you see that there's also the meta information here. All of this stuff goes into the head. For example, you can define here I said hire data analyst, data scientist on projects. Now, how do I control this and how do I want to change this value? So every time somebody share my page, it doesn't matter if it's me or my customer or my referral or my suppliers, my partners, no matter who it is, as long as they share my page, this text here, this is something that should be can be determined based on what you specify in your head. These are meta information. So
I see.
Yeah, so if you say, oh, I don't want to show that, I actually want to say like super type hire data science on hire full stack data scientists on projects, for example, then I could change that in the head but not in the body, because these are meta information that all these search engines and stuff like that they use those to generate information.
Okay. Good question, Mo.
Yeah. So yeah, because I thought that if we put everything in the head and all these links are redirected with one and another, we just have to copy the head and everything is done, right?
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm actually wondering, right? Like those search on Google search, whenever you search like Algorithma or whatever, right?
Right.
And then suddenly they come out with like all the sublinks. They're from our menu.
Yeah.
I wonder what are they reading there? Are they reading our body or they're reading like the head when they preview that on the Google search, right?
Yeah. A lot of it is actually using something called a site link. So if you go to Google Search Console, you can control what shows up. If you go in there, let's start now.
On our side, I think we have a plugin for it.
Oh, okay. All right. But
so we define what are the things that being crawled.
Yeah. So you can define like what do you want to show and stuff, and Google would use that to generate that.
Got it.
Yeah. But for now though, we already have our home and features. All of you have this already, like your features page.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing in it yet, but yeah.
Yeah, nothing in it, but at least you have the main frame of the idea, right? Like, okay, now people can click around and play things and do things and not just have a, a one static page now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Now,
Calvin has a question.
sure.
Calvin has a question on the chat.
Oh, let me see the chat. Does using Bootstrap still require you to use span? Well, span is really the main two things you use for any kind of UI builds is one is called div, one is called span. What is the difference? The div basically, if you use a div, it almost always creates something called like if you use a div, it basically creates. Let me show you what I mean by that. For example, if I create a div here, let me go into one of this. Let me just go and create a new one to show you what it looks like. You will still need div and span. I'll show you why that is. But okay, you're in the top 2%. Let me just change that. You're in the top 2%. Okay, this one, right? Now, if I wanna, let's say I wanna change only a small, I wanna make this income category. I wanna make the top 2%. I wanna make this, I wanna change only this area. I can do something like that. I can add a span. Oops, spam instead, not span. Span. And I'm gonna close this out. And then I'm gonna take the 2% income category group. You're in the top 2%. And I can add classes to this. For example, I can make it class. And I can make it light. And I can make it small. If I change this now, you see that now it's a little bit lighter and it's a bit smaller. Maybe you can't see that really clearly, but let me go and find something font weight maybe. And I'll make sure that they are FW600 maybe. Let me see, font weight. Okay. FS to font weight. I'm gonna take bolder. FW font weight bolder. Copy that. Instead of light, I'm gonna put bolder. Change that. If I refresh my page, you see that the top 2% is bolder. And I can have I can even make this something like text, primary. And if I refresh the page, you see that that's the top, my primary text. So what I mean by that is that when you do a span, what you do with span is that you can say that anything that goes within this span take on this class. Now, span is better for this kind of usage because it doesn't create a new div for you, where div on the other hand creates a new div. So for example, if I try to do something like, if I try and change this, yeah, let me show you what I mean. And I said A, really have no meaning here, but just to show you what I mean by that. And I create another div AAA. You see that AA and AA, they are completely in different div. But if I change the div to span, and I say AAA, and I put AAA, even if I put them on a separate line, if I refresh it, you see they put them on the same line. So basically the main difference is that when you put span, they are assumed to be part of a bigger thing. For example, the span in here is assumed to be part of this P, but within here, this span of text here takes on new classes. Like for example, they are bolder and they have a primary class in here. But if I put them in div, just like how I showed you earlier,
then they would just go below, right?
Yeah, they just take on their own div. So that's kind of how you differentiate them. So there is the div and there's the span.
Okay, cool.
Is that clear though? You have any questions?
I'm still thinking of like the real application like of span. When would you what is the best case to use that span?
Yeah, like another use case. Let me create another span for you then. Like this is like for example, this is a span here, right? Let me create another one. Instead of Yoo-hoo, I'm gonna give it a span here because I want it to have maybe a nice fancy action, for example. So I'm gonna put my Yoo-hoo in here. So Yoo-hoo. And now I can add a new class. and I'm gonna say text capitalized. So bam, now they are capitalized. Y and H are capitalized, even though in here they're not. You see that? And I can also make them bolder, like that. And the thing is that I'm actually, this entire thing though, semantically they all belong to a P. So they're all part of this P. They're all part of this P. Semantically, they're all part of this P. If you look at my code, semantically they're all part of this P, except I wanted to maybe like highlight these 3 words in here and highlight these 3 words in here. You know what I mean? So that's when I would use span.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because if I don't use span here, I'm gonna have to find a way to text capitalize only this part. But how do I do that? You want me to put this in the lid, then everything will be text capitalized. So for example, now everything will be text capitalized. That's not what I want. So how do I only say only the you know, the text that fall within this span should take on this class? That's how I do it.
Hey, I see, bro. Okay, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, some of this stuff I don't usually talk about because they're not, you can, like you said, you know, maybe it's a bit like, oh, when would you ever need to do something like that? So they are good to know that, you know, it's good to know that, okay, if you do need to do them, there's all these facilities that Bootstrap provide to you. But for the most part, if you're not worried about that, then, you know, you can just move on and learn all the main important things first. Like really, I cannot be very exhaustive to cover everything that is in Bootstrap, but I try to just focus on the main things that could be really useful to you right now, and the things that you need to learn to sort of build your projects first, and then everything else you learn as you go. Kind of like learn as you learn as you go. The kind of a need to know basis.
Yeah, we gotta do it ourselves and just play around.
Yeah, you gotta do some homework, play around with that, make your own, you know, make your own front end, make it look prettier, try and change things around, and then you can ask me questions and I can help you with that.
Okay, great.
Right.
I'm gonna have to go soon in like maybe 15-30 minutes.
Yeah.
If we don't get to finish this, I mean, if you guys want to continue, go ahead. I'll catch up for the next class then.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Right. So far,
but we had a lot of on the front end. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, what we can do also is we can do Flask only like next one, but I can just make sure that we just focus on like getting your Bootstrap up to speed first. But at least you learn a little bit more today. You learn a little bit about like the whole classes, the layout thing, and then you learn about like links and stuff like that. And so far, if you can, right, do some homework. If you want to do some homework, so to speak, try and flash up the pricing and disable and give them the same thing. Like for example, somebody clicking on feature pricing should go to the pricing, and then this thing should be highlighted. Same thing for disabled. Try and see if you can play around with that and make it pretty. I will say.
Okay, so the next homework is to create new pages here, guys.
For at least one page. It doesn't matter if you do it for the last page, but at least do it for the pricing page. The pricing page, what makes the most sense is to use the table. So if you go to table, what makes the most sense for pricing is something like a table. So think about how you would implement a nice proper pricing table. If you want some simple example, you can say pricing tables, Bootstrap 5. You will see a lot of like examples of that, like this one. And all you need to do, right, is to just right click, inspect, and then what do? You basically copy the entire thing. So for example, I'm gonna go into this one, okay, and I'm gonna say edit HTML, and I'm gonna just take all of that. I'm gonna copy that, and then I'm gonna go into my pricing. So obviously you don't want to do that because it's lazy and you're not learning anything new, but here it's something that I'm not gonna learn anyway because I've done this a lot already. So I'm gonna just go into app, and here I'm gonna copy. I'm gonna say HTML. Oops. Okay, hold on. I need to switch this Django to HTML. Okay, and then I'm gonna say exclamation mark, and then I'm gonna go into my body, and I'm gonna paste all of this. I'm gonna save that, and I'm gonna copy my navigation as well. So this is my navigation. I'm gonna move all of the navigation into pricing, and save it. Now if I go to my pricing, okay, pricing.html. So if I go to my pricing, okay, so nothing is happening here because I don't have the header, the code for that. So I'm gonna just copy all this head. So go to my head, copy all of this up to this point, go into pricing, and I'm gonna replace this, save this, run it. Bam, now I have my pricing. So this is still not good enough because I still need my space around it. So I'm gonna create a container, and I'm gonna move all of this nav. In fact, I'm gonna just take this out, go all the way to the end of the nav, and just add that, and refresh it. Well, maybe not a container. Maybe what I can do instead is to just add a MT or M4, like a margin all around. Have to move the nav out though. So I'm gonna move this nav, move it out here, like that. Maybe just add a container, just to make it a little bit more consistent with the rest of it, like something like that. And then you can add a header, of course. You can say something like, I don't know what you want to say, but let's say a plan that works for any investor, a plan, pricing, subscription for software, and a plan that works for any investor. Okay, and I can make it centered if I want to, but I mean this is good enough too. So it's up to you how you want to implement it, but try to go ahead and try and practice that and see if you can go into home and also make sure that this works. If I click into pricing, it should work. Right now it doesn't. Right now I have to type that. So how would you change this? So try and practice that. So find some time, I don't know, maybe after work on Monday, Tuesday, try and do that, because later on when we create our Flask, we can do something like that. We can say, okay, if somebody have a pro subscription, then in the homepage you want to show, for example, this analytics. But if somebody is on a free plan, then you don't want to show this. You want to say that to unlock more insights, upgrade your plan. You want to say something like that. And the way you can do that is to start to write server-side logic. And so those are things that we're going to learn. So if you can do some homework, then that would be good to sort of practice, change things around. There are a lot of other things you can do as well. For example, you can also try and change the background, the entire background. Like this is the whole body. You can go ahead and add a color to the background. Maybe a bit more, I don't know, maybe a bit less reddish and a bit more like that, something like this. You can, yeah, this is okay, make it less plain, change things around, make things look a little bit better for yourself. And then when we resume the lessons, then we can go on and actually start to create the Flask app. So when you come back, you do need to make sure that you have Python installed already. Right now you don't require Python, everything is just front end, but when you come back you want to make sure you have Python installed, because we're going to be starting to write the Flask app itself.
Nice. Yeah, I get a Python ready.
Yeah, so if you have Python, that's good. If you don't have it, then you want to install that. Then you make sure you create a simple pricing page. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter what you do with it, but just make sure that you do some practice. And then you can send me your screenshots and show me like, oh, how does it look like right now? And then we can implement the logic later on. So right now, just design your app as if it's a real app. That's all.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Thanks for the time. By the way, next week, guys, are you guys free, or Sam, are you free on Saturday afternoon? Because I have to move out on Sunday. Yeah, I don't know. If you're not available, then we can schedule another day.
Yeah, I should be okay on a Saturday.
Mo, are you okay?
Yeah, I should be free.
Calvin, Aurelia?